right, y'all, if you recognize this background, you'll probably know where I'm at. I am with Jerome and Mari at Bonsai Supply. They invited me to their house, and we actually shaped up this Esperanza back at a meetup in May. I can't believe it's been that long.
Right.
But we completely defoliated. I will put a picture in of everything. We took every single leaf off this plant.
That's correct.
And it has come back so strong. Y'all can see all the new growth it's got.
I mean, look at that. It's almost a foot of new growth.
Yeah, I told Jerome, I was like, these things grow so fast that even in the heat, it was like 100 degrees out that day.
Yeah.
And it didn't budge.
Is this one completely new growth?
Yes.
Since then?
Oh yeah, that looks like.
I mean, that's over a foot of growth.
Yeah, that's about a foot right there.
That's crazy.
And so we're gonna go through, and we already did a pretty good wire job. But what we're gonna do today is actually put this in a bonsai pot. All right, so we are here with Jerome from the Bronx. We're here with Jerome from the Bronx. What's up, y'all? We're here with Jerome and his wife is in the background. She's got some stuff going on back there. But we have been here all morning checking out the bonsai collection, looking at some of your fancy pots. Even though you said that you don't have any fancy pots anymore, I know each one of those is like $500. But we actually just up-potted the Esperanza that we did back in May. I will put a picture of what it looked like when we first did it right here, right there. And then I want to sit down and kind of get a talk with you about how the bonsai got started. How did you get into bonsai and everything like that?
Well, hello everybody, and
Hello,
and thank you so much.
How do you say it in Switzerland? How do you say hello?
Hello,
Oh yeah, hello.
hello, and thank you for having me on your
Oh
podcast.
no,
by the
thank
way.
you for having me at your house. I mean,
course.
y'all have a great place here. I love your dogs.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
So you want to know how the bonsai got started?
I
Huh?
want to know how you got into,
Okay.
and I know it's a family business or a family passion.
Family passion.
Right.
It has become a family business over the years.
Okay.
So basically the way that it got started is that my mom, when she was around 22 years old, she traveled around the world and she stopped in Japan. And that was actually quite unusual to travel that much back then.
When
So
was
we're
this, like
talking
in the
about-
70s or
We're
80s?
talking about 50 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she traveled around the world and she came to Japan and she loved it so much. She ran out of money and she needed to work a little bit. And back then you didn't need any visas, nothing like that. You could just pick up a job anywhere, no questions asked.
Okay.
So she worked during the day at a bonsai nursery, actually, believe it or not.
Wow.
And in the nighttime she would work in restaurants as a waitress to, make enough money to continue her travels. And that's where she fell in love with the bonsai art.
That's
the
amazing.
passion of bonsai.
That's awesome.
And then she taught me growing up. She's still doing bonsai to this day. And so she taught me growing up, and that's how I got into bonsai.
That's incredible. Hold,
Yeah.
hold your microphone up a little further.
Is this
You
better?
don't have to be right on it, but
Oh.
just be a little close.
Sorry about
Camera's
that.
getting- No, that's awesome. So your dad wasn't a bonsai guy, just your mom.
Just my mom, yes.
Yeah. And did it drive your dad crazy, like all the bonsai stuff?
No, actually, he loves it, and he just left. He was here visiting me in Texas, and he loves bonsai. Like he helps me when he's here. He helps my mom when he's in Switzerland. She helps me when she's here. So we all help each other. It's kind of like you do it together as a team.
Is it are your family like garden people, like outdoor people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So growing up, we had bigger houses. Now that all the children had left the house over the years, they obviously downsized and they don't do gardening as much anymore. But my mom still has plants in her all over her living room.
So I bought myself a cheap little bonsai set. This is not fancy whatsoever. This is my cheap little Amazon set. And
No, that's perfect. I always say it doesn't matter the quality of the tools, it's about the art.
especially when you're starting out, because
Absolutely.
if you look at some of Jerome's, he's got a lot of stainless stuff that was passed down from generation. Jerome is Swiss, so he's got that accent. When he pulled this out, I thought it was gonna be like a scene from Die Hard where he's pulling my teeth out. But will you walk us through like what these tools are and what they're used for? So each tool has a specific task.
Absolutely. So these scissors here is what we call like a butterfly scissor. because it has these big loops. And that's so that you can put your entire hand in here. And this is usually used to cut the roots. So you have a lot more force when you can put your entire hand inside the scissors. So we use this to cut through the soil, cut off bigger roots. That's what this is used for. Now the thinner and longer scissors are actually used for pruning. So we use this to reach into the canopy of the tree, to cut out smaller and probably like medium-sized branches.
Yeah.
So the size of a chopstick, you can still cut this with this pair of scissors. That's what this is used for. And you actually have a great setup here. And like I said before, especially when you're starting out, you want to have a more or less expensive tool set. And there's nothing that you cannot do with these scissors or with these tools that I can do with my stainless steel.
Right.
It's about the artist.
It's not about the tool, it's about the hands using them.
It's not the plane, it's the pilot, right?
Yes.
That's exactly. So we have wire cutters here. These are specifically used to cut wire. And the reason why they are rounded in the front is so that you don't cut actually the bark of the tree, you just cut the wire off. So I cannot even cut myself with these if I wanted to, because they are rounded in the front. Now, if you're really good, you could also use electrical wire cutters. Same thing. You work in the wire industry, right?
Yeah.
Stuff, so you probably have that.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we have the concave cutters, which we use to cut off branches. They are angled like that so that we can make a straight flush cut up against the trunk. So when we remove a larger branch, line it up with the trunk and just chop it off. It will give you a nice flush cut.
Nice.
This is perfect. You can also use this for larger roots.
And is there, so the reason for the concave, the reason is to not leave a scar for scarring, right?
Correct. So there's another tool too, which is called the knob cutter, which I have over here. Now the knob cutter is this tool. And with the knob cutter, this is kind of like almost like a melon scoop. Like it goes into the trunk further. So that would be convex.
Okay.
Right? So you go into the trunk. Depending on the species, some species, like for instance a maple, you want to do concave, have it flush with the trunk. But other species that heal over more aggressively, like let's say for instance, what's on the top of my mind? So a species that's more aggressive.
Yeah, like something that grows back faster, like a tropical.
Maybe like that one.
Yeah.
You would want to go convex. Go in a little bit into the trunk. So
Okay, heals back over. Yeah.
And then it's not like healing over like a bump. It will then heal over still flush. So depending on the species.
Okay.
But to 99%, I use the concave. And there's other people that to 99% use the knob cutter. It's a personal preference at the end. But this one goes more into the trunk versus this one.
And so can you explain to me, so this is like surgical steel almost, right?
It's
like
stainless steel.
And this is like a carbon steel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
It's just the cost of the materials.
Exactly. And the stainless steel, you don't have to sharpen it because it sharpens itself.
Okay.
So it stays sharp. I never had to sharpen my tools ever.
Right.
And I've used them for years.
And these are going to rust faster if you leave them outside.
Exactly.
Yep.
So you would want to oil these after each use and probably use like a Clorox wipe after each use to disinfect them and just keep them clean. But these are great tools.
It's got that porous metal that's going to absorb any kind of like pathogen or whatever that could transfer. With the stainless, you don't necessarily have to worry about that as much.
Exactly. Even though you can see there's still a little rust on here as well.
But it's super surface rust. It's all surface. Yep.
If I use a Clorox wipe, it'll come right off.
And this is Japan, right?
This is actually Chinese.
Chinese, okay.
My only tool that I have that's for Japanese would be the concave. Other than that, I use Chinese tools. Again, it's a cost difference.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it's not about the tools itself. It's,
right.
It's 100% the artist.
Right.
And so, like my tool set costs like $200. And if you were to go Japanese, those $200 would turn into
$400, $500.
More like $800 to $1,000.
Jeez.
And the thing with tools is that you lose tools. People, they don't steal your tools on purpose.
Stuff just walks off sometimes.
If you work with friends, right, and somebody thinks it's their tool, they just take it. I've also put a lot of tools into the trash. Like, you work on soil, you have a soil mount, and your tools are somewhere in there, and you just clean the table, all goes in the trash.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, with all the trees you've done, I guarantee you've probably thrown a whole set of that away at some point on accident. Yeah.
Multiple sets.
How many trees have you done in your life, you think?
I have no idea.
It's like like maybe thousands.
Over thousands. I would say over 3,000.
Wow.
Because we used to have a nursery in Florida.
Okay.
And I used to work at like maybe 100 trees a week.
Wow.
Easily. So yeah, I worked on a lot of trees.
And this is a root rake?
Root rake, and then we have two different rakes here. They can both be used. It's a preference type of thing again. I would say if the soil is very compact, you would probably start out with this root hook, and you would just work through the roots. And then in the finer areas, you would use a rake.
Okay.
But it's a preference thing, right? Especially on bigger trees, you want to use the hook first, so you can really get into the root ball, and then switch over to the rake. Now, the rake has this little tool at the end here, which is actually used to collect moss and to apply moss.
Is that what that is?
That's what that is, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
you use it like a little scoop. And so if this was the moss, you would just go under the moss and then just work it out like that. And then you would transfer it over to your tree, and then you can just press it down with this. And you don't want to use your thumb to press the moss into the soil.
Right.
Use the back of this to just gently.
And the only thing it's missing is a stainless steel chopstick.
Or you can also use
just a regular chopstick. Yeah.
We'll have some sushi tonight.
Show them the chopstick, what you use that for. So any kind of stick, or you get fancy, you got the stainless steel chopsticks.
I got the stainless steel because the wooden ones, you work them down very quickly, especially with the soil that we use, like the rocky soil. If you use a wooden chopstick, it goes down like a pencil. You wear it down. So the metal chopstick lasts a lot longer. Cost-wise, I think you buy like
a 12-pack of them.
Yeah, you use this to work out the air pockets in the soil, just like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this is one thing I know you sell on your site, right? Y'all do sell the saws.
This we sell on our Amazon recommendation page, as well as the tools. This is a saw, like you said, to cut through the root ball. So we're actually going to use that today. The only Japanese tool I have is this one, which is Fujiyama.
Yeah.
That's the only Japanese tool I have.
It's so funny because like when you think like made in China, you think like made cheaper. But I was doing some research, and some people say that bonsai, I guess there's an argument that bonsai was invented in China or Japan. There's like a feud.
True. So it originated in China. And then over like 1,000 years, some Japanese monks, they actually studied in China, and they brought some bonsai trees with them to Japan.
Right.
And it was called penching back then. And then the Japanese kind of took over the art form, perfected it in a way, started traveling, teaching, and that's why it's known as bonsai and penching. But like you said, the Chinese, we have this thing in our mind that the Chinese is always cheaper, like you said. But in China, there's different quality levels.
Right.
So you can get, like let's say bonsai tools, you can get Japanese bonsai quality.
In China.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that a lot of Japanese tools are actually imported from China.
And they put
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
And then I guess it's made in Japan.
Yeah, there you go. Is it near? Only town I know in Sweden is Stockholm. Not Sweden.
Well, I'm
Switzerland.
from Switzerland.
Okay,
How dare you?
I have this issue where I hadn't met him yet. We had messaged back and forth, which I'm pretty sure I was actually messaging with his wife and not you, because I found out that she's the one. She's the one in charge. If you want to get a hold of Jerome,
talk to her.
That's
right.
And I was like, oh, I wonder where his accent's from. I didn't want to ask, and I was like, maybe it's German. And then
first of all, what accent? What accent?
He definitely doesn't have an accent at all. But I was like, oh, maybe he's German. And then he said he was Swiss, and I was like, oh, from Sweden. I'm like, no, those are Swedish people. I'm from Switzerland.
But that's okay. Everybody makes that mistake.
Yes.
I mean, how could you not? Right. Switzerland and Sweden.
Are they right next to each other?
Not really.
Okay.
They're close to each other.
Okay.
But not next to each other. Like next to
Switzerland.
Switzerland.
Insert map right here.
Insert map.
Yeah, right there.
Switzerland is surrounded by Austria, Germany.
Okay.
I was going to say Switzerland.
The Swiss Alps.
Italy,
it makes sense. It's over there.
France.
Yeah. Okay.
France. Yeah. So we're surrounded by all of these countries.
And Sweden is Norwegian.
It's up there.
Yes.
Think colder than Switzerland.
Y'all should have got a lot more creative with your names, Europe, because that's very confusing. I
was not part of that meeting when they
Yeah.
came out with the names.
Well,
So I
you
apologize.
should write a letter. You should write.
I already did several
Yeah.
times.
So the accent isn't too far off then, because it's near Austria and Germany, like Bavarian accent, like the Bavarian kind of accent.
They pronounce the K's a little more.
Okay.
They sound more Scottish, I would say, like Irish. With
Like,
that accent. Exactly.
that was not Irish. That was a pirate.
Irish.
Irish.
Like
Like
they pronounce the K's and the R's like Irish. I'm from
Irish.
there, you know.
Do you do any like other accents?
But they're all very inappropriate. And my wife told me not to do them in public, so.
Dude, if I had a list of everything I couldn't do in public, then my wife told me I can't. It's a very long list.
Oh, it is a very long
It's
list.
a very long list.
So that's why I just do very few things.
Because I'm on marriage number 2, so I want to keep it that way.
Oh, absolutely.
So going back to your mom was in Japan. She worked in the nursery. She
Mm-hmm.
brought it back with her. How did you just one day pick up a pair of scissors and become like a savant, or did
Well,
it take a lot of work?
I think my mom did it really smart. Of the way that she introduced me into bonsai is by not introducing me to it. She would just be in the backyard, working on her trees, trimming them, doing her thing, and I think it was actually her peace area away from the children,
Yeah.
and I think I ruined that for her.
Her inner sanctum.
Exactly. I think I ruined that for her.
Yeah.
She never told me, but by seeing her out there in the backyard and, being so in tune with herself and coming back into the house as a happier person, automatically as a child, you get curious. And
Yeah.
you're like, what is she doing out there? So I got out there and I was like, Mom, what are you doing? And then she would be like, hey, why don't you defoliate that tree? But there's no talking, And so that's how my curiosity grew
Yeah.
and grew and grew. Yeah, that's why I think she did it so smart.
Yeah.
By not
She didn't force it on you.
exactly. If you want your children to do something specifically, I feel like a lot of times don't introduce them to it.
For
Just
sure.
let them kind of gain the curiosity, and then they get in. I mean, look at me now. I'm a bonsai artist. I do it full time. I have a business of
Yeah.
bonsai. I mean,
It's crazy, and I don't think there's a lot of things. I don't think you can force bonsai on someone. They have to be
I don't think you can force anything on to
right,
anybody.
right. But like bonsai is pretty niche. I mean, it's very popular around the world, but it's very niche. It's not like not all gardeners are bonsai people.
Right.
Not all farmers are bonsai people.
Not all bonsai people are gardeners.
Right,
Like a lot of
exactly.
time, bonsai people are not gardeners.
Right.
Like we separate the two. It's a completely different world. But then the succulent people and the cactus people,
Indoor people, yeah.
they're
yeah.
not gardeners.
Right.
They're cactus people.
Well, there's
you
indoor.
know.
Then there's indoor people that think bonsai are indoor plants.
Correct.
Yes,
So there's everything.
and they're wrong, right?
I'm not gonna say wrong, right? It's different. A bonsai tree is not supposed to be grown indoors.
Okay.
But you can still grow it indoors if you have the right means. Like if you have the growing light, you have
Like a sunroom or something
a
like that.
sunroom, you have something that gives humidity into the area that
Yeah.
you are in, grow light, you have a oscillating fan. You can grow it inside, but the best place possible for your plants or trees, bonsai trees, is outdoor in full sun.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Where does a tree grow in nature?
It's natural.
Outdoors in full sun.
So we're out here looking at Jerome's collection of bonsai trees, and this is one of your new favorites, right?
Absolutely. So this is an American elm, and I created this tree. So this tree has gone through quite a transformation. So when we wrote our book, Freestyle Bonsai, this tree was actually in the book, and we have this section where we describe how to create styles, step by step with pictures. One of my favorite sections in the book. And this tree actually became a weeping style.
Okay.
And so for the book, I took all the leaves off, I wired the branches, and I wept them down just like a big weeping tree that you would see like on a lake. It
Yeah.
looked beautiful.
Like a willow, yeah.
Just like a willow, exactly. And then probably a year after that, I looked at the tree again and I was like, you know what? This tree would look better on a rock. So I put it on a rock.
That's cool, man. That
I
is so
removed
cool.
the weeping because doing a weeping style with a tree species that doesn't naturally weep
Mhm.
means that all the new growth will continue to grow upright towards the sun.
Right.
So you would have to constantly put wire onto the branches and bring them back down.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? As I'm getting more like established in bonsai, like I've been doing this for over 15
He
years.
literally wrote the book on bonsai.
That's
And
right.
I will put a link to that. You should have called the book Bonsai for Dummies, because that's the kind of book that's what it is. So his book is what's it called?
It's called Freestyle Bonsai.
Freestyle Bonsai. It is basically a step by step. You can take any tree and
Correct.
turn it into a bonsai, and he goes through each individual style. And that was made during the COVID when y'all were locked in your house.
Exactly.
And so y'all were like, well, let's, y'all do a lot of videos. Let's also make a book. And y'all went through every single style. And I've got the book, and it's really cool.
Like I said, it went from a weeping into now an upright tree on a rock.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And actually, the reason why we call the book Freestyle Bonsai is actually because of the next tree that I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Is because I have this approach with bonsai. I like to put them on statues.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it freestyle.
I love that.
Like, don't be bogged down with rules, know the rules so that you can, bend the rules.
Right.
But you don't have to live by the rules.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's exactly why we call it freestyle.
So when did you come to the U.S. and when did the bonsai, the bonsai side hustle, did it start when you came to the U.S.?
No, it happened by accident, the whole
Really?
bonsai business. So I came in 2007.
Okay.
And I came on a hotel exchange student program because I used to work in the hotel industry.
Okay.
And so they had this program. They would send a Swiss kid to the United States and an American kid to Switzerland. He stayed in Switzerland. I stayed in the United
Really?
States. Yes. And then
That's cool.
I didn't start the bonsai business until about 8, now almost 9 years ago, and it kind of happened by accident.
Well, tell us how, because, everybody, that's the reason I like these podcasts so much, because everybody wants to know, like, this dude does bonsai full time? How did he
Right,
start?
how does that work?
He couldn't have always done it full time,
Right.
Like, how did it start? Like, how did you go from a guy who just ducks to do on the weekends to doing it full time?
So I used to work in restaurants. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life
Like
back
most-
then.
like most of us,
Exactly.
yeah.
I was like 27 or so. I didn't really know. I was kind of lost. I worked in restaurants. I made really good money. It was a really good schedule because I just worked from 5 p.m. to like 11 p.m.
So you had all morning.
4 days a week only.
Yeah, that's
so I
amazing.
had all morning, and in the previous places that I lived, like in Chicago and in Massachusetts, where I lived in that specific area, we didn't have large backyards.
Okay.
And so when I moved to Florida, I had a humongous backyard right on a lake.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, wow, this is the perfect setup. Let me start to do bonsai. And I went to all the nurseries, and within like a year, I went from 0 trees to 150 bonsai trees.
Are there quite a few bonsai, nurseries in Florida?
Not back then.
Like, specifically?
Not back then. No.
No.
Now there's a few, but we're talking about 10, 12 years ago.
Right.
There was nobody there.
Well, and bonsai kind of had a trend more in the 60s and 70s, and kind of went down, and now it's kind of making a
Exactly.
resurgence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, in the last 10 years, it has really gained a lot of momentum. So when I was in Florida, I could find the material in just regular nurseries, turn them into bonsai trees, but the soil was missing, the pots were missing, the tools, the wire, and so it was extremely difficult. And like 12 years ago, the internet was not as large as it is
Right.
now.
Especially the consumer shopping industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you couldn't just order a pot from California.
Right.
You kind of had to go there and bring it back on your own.
And soil was like China and Japan. You had to get the akadama and everything like that from there.
Exactly. And so I actually just met my wife a month prior of starting the business.
Oh, wow.
So
The brains behind the operation, by
that's
the way.
right. I'm the looks. She's the brains.
We're
She's
always
not here right
saying that because she's listening somewhere in the house.
Exactly. So I met her, we started dating, and I said to her, by the way, next month I'm going to China for a month. Can you watch my dog? And she was like, why would you go to China? It was kind of, it's kind of odd to say I'm going to China for a month.
Yeah.
Right? Like nobody goes on vacation. Oh, not that I know, goes on vacation to China for a
The
month.
only people I know that go on vacation to China is Chinese people.
There you go. I think so too. So I went to China and I backpack travel from Shanghai to Beijing.
Oh, wow.
And I went to all the factories. And actually my mom came with me,
That's
which is really
amazing.
cool. So I said to her, I need to find some more bonsai things like tools and, like I just said,
Yeah.
material. And the only place that I knew was in China, like where you could go to factory and
Yeah.
buy a lot of stuff. So I bought a pallet worth of things. And I shipped it home, and I flew home in the meantime. And when I got back to Florida, I told all of my friends, like, hey, I'm getting this pallet. The minimum order is a pallet. So I had to order a pallet, which was way too much for just me.
Right.
So I told my friends, like, hey, I'm getting a pallet of stuff. I'll
Is
share
this like
with
a
you.
small community of bonsai people like you found?
Back then, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was like maybe 6 of us.
Wow.
So they came when the pallet arrived, and I sold everything within like a half an hour.
Yeah.
And my wife helped me, pack up things and like sell them.
Ship it out.
Right
Yeah.
there. No, we
Oh,
didn't
you-
ship. It was
oh.
right in the driveway.
Wow.
And so I looked at my wife and I said, well, back then it was girlfriend. I said, now I don't have anything again. Now let me take that money from the first pallet and
it back
order 3 pallets, because then I'm sure I'll get something.
Yeah.
So these people now told other people. So they came again when the 3 pallets arrived. Again, everything was sold. So now I ordered a container with the 3 pallets that I made.
And this is like the tools, the substrate,
wire,
the wire.
pots.
So even the wire too, the wire and then a selection of pots and stuff like that
Exactly.
as well.
And then I look at my wife and I'm like, I gotta change something because I still don't have anything for myself. And she's like, well, listen, dummy, why don't we just start a business?
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, sure. So the next day I went and registered the business, and it became the Bonsai Supply. And she's been the brains of the operations. I've been more the artist and like kind of the face of the company.
Right.
But everything, the growth of the business, the direction that we've gone is mostly all thanks to her.
Well, and so she's doing a lot of like we had talked earlier off camera about, she does a lot of the shipping and the warehouse management, but she's also a screenwriter too. You told me.
Yes.
So she was an actress, and then she.
When I met her, she was acting.
Really?
And then she kind of put that on the back burner when we started the business, and then she kind of picked it back up. I would say maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then she kind of realized that she didn't really like acting as much because there's not being scripts written for her.
Right.
Because she's Latina, she's an immigrant, she's from Venezuela. So she was like this, I don't see my kind on the screen really.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to see me on the screen, I have to create me on the screen.
Yeah.
And that's when she fell in love with screenwriting. And then she just produced her first movie.
Yeah, so she just produced her first movie. It's on Lifetime. What is the title of it again?
It's called Don't Kill the Babysitter.
Don't Kill the Babysitter.
And you have to watch it because it is amazing.
Yes, I will put a link to the IMDb page down here. Don't Kill the Babysitter. I'm gonna go tell my wife to we're gonna watch it on the streaming service as well.
Yes.
And I told her, I was like, we love the Lifetime Christmas movies. You got to do some Christmas movies. They got to be dying because they start in like November and it's like 60 days of Christmas. So they need Christmas movies bad every single year. So
absolutely,
she's got to get some Venezuelan Christmas movies made.
She's working on a lot. So right now she's working on probably like 8 movies simultaneously.
That is nuts.
And so the first movie is a thriller, and it has a lot of twists and turns and surprises, and you jump out of your seat.
Yeah.
So like I spilled popcorn everywhere, screaming, because
That's
there's
awesome.
so many twists and turns.
I can't wait to watch it now. That's awesome. That's awesome.
You have to watch it and let me know how you
The
like it.
Lifetime movies are underrated. Nowadays with streaming services and everything, production value's up on everything. So definitely check it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But now she's writing Christmas movies, like you mentioned.
That's awesome.
She's also writing a horror movie now. So she's all over the map, but
That's awesome.
That's how she functions.
Yeah.
All over the map and doing a lot of things at the same time.
We
Multitasking. She
Yes.
says we can't do it, man.
I'm not a multitasker.
I would think that I am,
I'm
but
a
she says I'm
a
not.
squirrel, dude. I'm a distraction artist.
But that's multitasking too.
Yeah,
Even if it's
but
not good.
It's not organized.
But it doesn't say multitasking is organized.
I say
It's just,
I'm a spontaneous multitasker.
I like that. I am too.
Yeah.
So this is what I was talking about. This is one of the trees that kind of made us call our book Freestyle Bonsai. So I added this tree to the statue, and I have another one back here, if you can see that.
Oh wow.
It's kind of like one of the things that put us on the map. Before us, nobody really did that. Added like statues, incorporated them into bonsai. But this actually is very natural if you think about it. So I got the inspiration for this piece from Angkor Wat
Okay.
in Cambodia. Are you familiar with that temple?
Yes.
Okay, so you know
That's a
that,
ficus.
exactly. And this is this is not a Buddha statue. I just used a Chinese statue, but it's the same idea behind it. And this is a very natural occurring thing. And so when I saw this in Cambodia, I was like, wow, how come nobody has done a statue, like has incorporated a statue into bonsai? So I came back to the US and this was created.
What type of ficus is this?
This is a green mount ficus.
Green mount, okay.
Green mount. Really strong growing ficus, attaches to the statue in no time. Really good tree.
Well, and so I'm familiar with Ficus corica, which is the common fig. And so what people don't know is that all ficuses are figs. These just don't produce the fruit.
So they actually do.
Just not edible for us though.
Correctly. It's not like a fig tree.
Right.
Right. That creates like a edible fruit. No, it creates little berries, and apparently you need to have a wasp that
pollinates them.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so this tree will be covered in those little figs as well. I removed the figs though, because I feel like that the tree puts a lot of energy into creating these figs. Because once the tree is covered in figs, it will kind of stop growing for about 2 months.
Yeah, it's going to focus a lot of its energy on ripening those, especially since this is a ficus that is not native to here. Correct. So the species of fig wasp isn't here, and it won't pollinate them anyway.
Correct. Although this one naturally just grows a lot of figs anyway.
Right, right.
I just removed them because I'd much rather have it grow leaves.
Absolutely.
So I can train more branches and grow more branches versus having it grow the fruits. And that's the same with like fruiting and flowering trees in bonsai. We generally remove the flowers and the fruits so that the tree can produce more leaves.
Right.
Now this here is the same idea, but here I use the juniper versus a ficus. But again, this is something that I love to do, incorporate statues into my bonsai designs.
Right, and probably the most common bonsai for like beginners would probably be a juniper or a maple, right? Those are probably the two most common.
Depending on your climate.
Yeah. And ficus is probably pretty common as well.
Very common. So if you're in a tropical climate, you would do ficus, elm, like I showed you before, or like a jade. And if you are in a temperate climate, wherever it gets cold, probably juniper or maple is a great beginner tree.
And probably one of the most identified plants is the jade, because you have the elephant bush that looks almost identical to it, but it is not the same.
Correct.
You're not going to get that same bark that you would on an elephant bush that you do on a jade.
Correct. The elephant bush is the ovata, I believe.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
It's the ovata. It has much larger leaves. The trunk doesn't look the same. This has more of a corky, like rough barks.
Definitely like cork-like. Yeah.
Cork-like, exactly. And the leaves are a lot smaller. And the other one, the ovata, it kind of has it has unusual dieback. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, a branch will start to die.
It's a succulent, yeah.
Yeah, it's not really good for bonsai. This is the Portulacaria afra, which is from South Africa. We also call it the elephant bush, which probably doesn't help. It's also called speckboom over there, or bacon bush sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why this is actually called an elephant bush is because the elephants actually eat the leaves.
Yep.
Because this is one of the only trees that I'm aware of, or shrubs or succulents, that stores the water in the leaves.
Right.
Well, I would say the only bonsai species that
Correct,
we use
yeah.
that stores the water in the leaves.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and these are pretty easy to train as well.
Oh, absolutely, very easy. You can actually grow any cutting.
Yeah,
any cutting will root. Just
very easy to propagate.
Trim it off, stick it in soil, and it will regrow. And so this is pretty much what I did with this next piece here. I took cuttings off of this tree and rooted them in separate dishes, and then they turn into this.
The forest.
Into a forest over time. So now it's pretty established. The trunks are, like almost like a soda can, like they're getting there. They're thickening up.
How quick does it take to get them that thick?
So this one is about 30 years old.
Holy crap.
Oh yeah.
These are
cuttings off of this tree, about 10 years.
That's crazy. You can get them pretty thick, huh?
If you think about it, 10 years is a really long time in human years.
Yeah.
But in tree years, that's nothing. That's like
true.
2 days.
Right.
10 years is absolutely nothing because they can live hundreds of years.
Right.
So 10 years from this to this, and then this tree was created from this tree, and this tree is about 3 years old.
Wow. So that's beautiful.
So these trees would be a lot bigger, but I kept them small because when I took them from cuttings, I planted them right into a shallow dish, As soon as you put them into a bonsai dish, the growth will start to slow down.
And that's why usually you don't want to start something out in a bonsai dish. You want to start it
Correct.
out in a trainer pot, or like the Texas Sage or the Esperanza
Exactly.
that I brought.
Bigger.
Yes.
Get the growth first. And let me show you this, because this is actually kind of
You're going to get that big root growth too.
It's actually funny that we're talking about jades and forests and creations.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So this was created this year. So once again, I took the cuttings from this tree now and just stuck them in here with some good bonsai soil. And now they're growing, and now I'm just going to let them grow, and probably next summer I'm going to start to shape this. So I'm going to continue my family over here.
Right.
Because this tree was then created by this one, so it's just kind of I thought it was pretty cool.
And that good bonsai soil is available at bonsaisupply.com. That is the stuff.
Exactly.
Y'all mix it yourselves here in Houston.
We make it here in Houston, exactly. And this is not regular black potting soil. This is very coarse. It's made out of lava rock, pumice, calcine clay, and
Because
pine
you want
bark.
that drainage.
You want that drainage. Once you go into a container, you want that drainage. You're gonna have to water a little bit more. Like I water mostly all of my trees once a day in the morning, but you kind of get into that rhythm. And when you get into that rhythm, you never forget to water any of your plants.
I love the way you say rhythm.
Rhythm?
I love it.
Oh, I love that you love.
I
how
love that.
Say rhythm.
Love you, man. And well, I guess the one thing you're not going to get with the jades that you would on other plants is that the roots, the giant roots, as much as you would other plants. You're not going to get the big root.
That's correct. So you can see it in here a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Jades don't really create that root flare. That's more of a deciduous
Right.
and tropical, like a ficus type thing. But mostly deciduous. Like deciduous trees create that beautiful root flare pretty much on their own.
Right.
And that's what we want, right? That
Yeah, the
cool-
root flare is the best part.
I mean, it's the best.
A lot of people like the top. I like the bottom. I like to see get back to that ficus. They call them certain figs. They call them strangler figs, and so that is what this is simulating in a forest where a strangler fig, the bird will actually take the seed, the fruit, eat it, and they poop out the seeds
Correct.
into like an elbow or a crevice on a tree. The ficus will grow out of the crevice
Absolutely.
and send its roots down, and the fig tree, the ficus, will actually choke out the host tree, and all to be left is the skeleton of the roots. And so that's what this is simulating, like a statue in a forest that's being strangled by the ficus. And I love that. I love the roots. The roots are my favorite.
I love it all. But I'm definitely a root person.
Yeah.
Just like you described, because if the roots are not there, because in bonsai we want to recreate a miniature image of a large and old tree. And if that root flare, the base is not there, I feel like you never get that image,
Yeah.
Like that feeling when you look at a piece. It doesn't have that old root flare. It doesn't look like an old tree, I feel like.
You start getting all these Connex boxes, and how many are you getting at a time now? Like one or two at a time? Like this is
So when we started importing containers, and we started, to open the business, and I would be on the phone daily and call every bonsai nursery there was, and I would be like, hey, I bring in containers of pots. Do you want? Oh yeah, put me down for this and this. So we would start to import about maybe 3 humongous containers, like 40-foot containers.
wow.
And that's when we started. That's when we opened up our nursery, and we would start to sell our containers at the nursery. We would start to sell trees and all of that good stuff. Now the pandemic happens. What happened in the pandemic?
So y'all had the storefront, the
Oh, yeah, in the
nursery,
pandemic.
and then the pandemic hit.
And the pandemic hit.
Oh my
And
God.
then all the container prices went from $3,000 to $25,000, $30,000.
Oh my God.
And we couldn't do it anymore. It
Wow.
wasn't feasible anymore.
How long did y'all have the nursery?
Now the nursery at this point was probably like 2.5 years old.
So
3.
it was just getting like.
It was just getting started.
Yeah.
It was just getting started, and the container, the pots were doing really well too. Everything was doing well.
The prices skyrocketed of those Connexes.
Exactly. But right before the pandemic, about 6 months before, we started to gain momentum in our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And everybody on the YouTube channel was like, what is that soil that you're using? Because we made our own soil. It's a special soil mixture specifically made for bonsai. It's like a rocky, porous type of soil. And so everybody would be like, what is that soil? Where can I get it? Like, where can I get it? Where can I find this? I need that soil
Yeah.
because look at your trees. They look so good. And that's when we looked at each other, my wife and I, we said, we should start selling this.
Oh yeah.
So we started bagging this soil. We started selling it on Amazon. And surprisingly, nobody thought it would sell well. Bonsai
Right.
soil. What a niche product.
Yes.
It picked up like this from day one.
Yeah.
So now, when the pandemic hit, we were already doing really well in the soil business. So it was a really easy transition for us because the soil is all made in the United States. We sourced the material from here. We were already in Texas at this point, set up the operation. So when the pandemic hit, we could transition into the soil and doing everything in the United States like that.
That's awesome that it's all made.
And so we could drop everything else on a drop of a hat
Right.
and focus on this operation and scale it. And while nobody could import, we could still produce.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we were extremely, extremely fortunate to pivot like that.
Well, and you think like shipping soil online. When you're buying bonsai soil, you don't need a 40-pound bag typically. I mean, you'll sell larger quantities,
Right.
bags, but in a typical repot, I mean, we use on that Esperanza just now, we maybe use like maybe 2 cups.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so you
Get a small 2-quart bag. It's
Yeah.
a 3-pound bag, and you can repot a lot of trees.
and
with
it's
that.
not a nightmare shipping either.
No,
I
because
mean,
there's no shelf life.
It's a fairly lightweight product. It's not like super heavy
Exactly.
either.
And
you know?
like, if you order it off of Amazon, you can still get it the same day.
Yeah.
Because like we have so much inventory now. We have over 3,000 reviews on Amazon that we gained within like 2.5 years
Yeah.
of being on Amazon. So it ships and delivers the same day, which is insane. So you can order it in the morning and sometimes get it in the afternoon.
Well, and you'll also sell at Home Depot.
And we also sell in Home Depot and Lowe's. Now we're not in all the stores,
Right.
so if you go to a store and you don't find it, you can still order it there at the counter,
Right.
and they'll ship it to your home free of charge, or you can pick it up at the Home
Yeah.
Depot.
You can look on the app and it'll tell you which stores maybe in your area have it as well.
What we find a lot is that some people don't want their partners to know that they keep ordering soil to their house, so they
Yeah.
just order it to the store.
There you go.
Get the notification, go to the store,
Yep.
pick it up, and bring it home, and their partner doesn't know.
I'm going to tell y'all right
I'm
now.
speaking out of experience.
Yes. So I'm going to tell y'all right now. This is my move. This is for all the men out there.
Let's hear it.
So what you do is you go on Amazon and you put stuff in your basket, but then you save it for later. Now, my wife doesn't have access to Amazon, so anytime she wants something, she sends me the link and I order it for her. And what I do is I wait for her to do that, and then I throw it back in the cart so that when it arrives, it's something for her and it's something for me. But you do a little bit at a time. It is super sneaky, it's evil, but it works. And all you men out there, you need to use that process.
You may have just given me a life-changing tip.
I'm a game changer. I am revolutionizing the game. I mean, we've got a orange and blue mic in front of us right now. I mean, we're changing the game.
I like it.
Changing it. So, changing it. All right, so the online stuff is working. BonsaiSupply.com. What about the nurseries? What happens to the nursery?
So we closed them down, actually.
And what happens to like everything? Like, you say you closed them. There was more than one?
Well, there was only one.
Okay,
We
sorry.
started in a small place, and then we moved into a bigger place.
Okay.
Right about a year before the pandemic hit.
Gotcha. Okay, so y'all everything just went into like storage units and
No, we sold everything off.
so y'all had like an auction, like, hey, we're just gonna
Yeah, we made a sale and we sold everything, and some of the pots that we didn't sell, I kept and then just sold them slowly over time.
That's cool.
But it was a very easy decision to make
Because y'all had already-
because we already
Yeah.
when you have your own business, you have to go on multiple lanes, multiple avenues at the same time,
Yeah.
in case something unforeseen happened. And that's something that my wife was really good at very early on, to set us up multi-channel,
Very
store,
business savvy. Yeah.
wholesale,
Yeah.
online. So if one thing goes down, and who could have foreseen the pandemic?
Nobody.
Who knows if this is the
Joe
last
Biden,
one?
maybe.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
and who knows if there's not another one, right?
Right, yeah.
Maybe Joe Biden does, like you
Maybe in
said.
November. I don't know. But anyway, so y'all, it wasn't a bad transition because y'all had
No.
already. It's just like content creation. You don't just post videos on YouTube. You post
Correct.
it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, so that like there was talks of TikTok getting taken down at certain points.
Absolutely.
So you want to the next time the next social media app that opens up, you want to be on there and be creating more content and sharing it there as well, getting it to
And
everybody.
I mean, now Twitter, they're talking about
Yeah.
charging a monthly subscription fee
Hmm.
for all users, and people don't like it, so they will change, like they will
Yes.
jump ship. That could happen to any channel, any
Oh
time. So
yeah.
you want to be definitely multi.
Multi-platform.
Absolutely.
So, are there any bonsai purists that are, because you all make everything here, like the soil,
Hmm.
and I know like a traditional Japanese bonsai soil is going to be like akadama and certain things. Are there any like people that I guess most people would just use whatever you have, whatever's best quality you can get.
So I find that there's a purist, like you just mentioned. Like there's people
The
that
old
say,
school, the OGs.
mostly those are OGs, yeah. They would be like, I only order my trees from Japan, only use Japanese pots, only use Japanese soils. And then there's people that only use organics for everything,
Yeah.
right? And so that's where our soil comes into play. It has organic matter like
Hmm.
pine bark,
Yep.
but also since everything is natural, like the volcanic rock that we use, lava rock and pumice, right? It is created naturally by nature in the United States.
Right.
Our packaging is made from recycled materials.
I didn't know that. That's
Like,
awesome. That's
absolutely.
awesome.
That's what we wanted to do when
Yeah.
we created this product. And
Right.
so that's why I think it is so popular because we kind of cross off all of these sections, like if you want organic, well, it is organic.
Right.
If you want to make sure that you take care of the environment with the packaging, well, it is, we
Yeah.
take care of this. It takes care of your tree as well. And I would say that most Americans or most people that live in the United States, they would buy something that is made in the United
Oh,
States
100%.
over something that is imported.
Yeah.
I feel like we're starting to kind of transition away from everything made overseas,
Right.
We want something that is made here, has a story, is made by a family, right?
Yeah.
We're immigrants, we're family, it's a family business. I think you want that.
Yeah. It's
When
not,
I shop, that's what I want.
yeah. It's not necessarily like an anti, China or whatever.
Not at
It's
all.
more of a pride thing that we're supporting a family here locally, and then you also think
Absolutely.
about like shipping. Like those Freightliners are burning diesel and stuff like that, and shipping across. It takes a lot of money and a lot of fuel and everything to like. Why
100%.
not buy local? When I tell people when they're looking for plants, go to your local nursery, support your local small
Absolutely.
nurseries, make buddies with them, leave them good reviews on Yelp, all that good stuff.
And I
Uh,
mean, there's stuff that you can buy that's homemade by anybody. Like even on Amazon, you
yeah.
can see where it's made, like
Yes.
family made, small family made business. Like it has these tags. And that's what we do when we shop. We support other businesses
Yeah.
that have the same idea. And I think that's how the economy, runs
Yeah.
or should run.
Absolutely, especially yeah, for sure. And speaking of homemade, that's kind of how I discovered your channel. I was looking. I don't know what I was working nights, 7 days on, 7 days off, 12-hour shifts, and I was working nights. And
Wow, that's a lot.
there was nothing going on. Yeah, so I had 7 days of work and had 7 days off.
But that's kind of a really cool
It
schedule.
was I only worked 26 weeks out of the year.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
What y'all gonna do? Are they hiring? Because
I
I'm working 24/7.
I got
Brianna's
I got
just
kicked
right
out
there.
I got kicked out that plant. So no.
That's for another story. Okay.
But I was getting into like the homesteader channels and stuff like that, and I discovered a bonsai video, and I think it was Peter Chin.
Oh yeah.
And he is really cool because he does a lot of, you don't need the fanciest tree, you don't need the fanciest pot, and that, I'd always thought that bonsai was a specific rules and style, and I had seen under his videos the Bonsai Supply, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's awesome.
And then, boom, choo, doom, how does the intro? Boom, choo, doom, choo, doom. All right. It's like, I was like, all
It's
right.
very
I
catchy.
was like, I like this guy, and like he was my, like you're in the 30s, and having a good time doing what you do, and you don't necessarily like, all right, rule one, you can't put your limb this way, you can't do that. You were digging up trees and making stuff,
I look at the rules as guidelines.
Yes.
I feel like you should know the guidelines of the Japanese bonsai because they do it best, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing it the longest, aside from the Chinese. But you should.
Dun, dun,
Dum,
dun.
dum, dum. You should. You should definitely learn them to understand them,
Correct.
and then you can break them. the guidelines. Go with the guidelines, but it's not that strict unless you want it to be very strict. I don't care about I don't care about the rules as much. I just look at them as guidelines.
Your pieces aren't going to competition. Like, I mean,
They have
I
been,
mean, you have, yeah,
and
yeah.
I have won competitions. Like
Right.
in Atlanta, I won best deciduous tree.
Your trees were on like display at like Disney World and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I also, my trees are featured in an international magazine, which is
Right.
called the Bonsai Focus magazine. I just got my latest issue just
Oh,
now,
nice.
where I write articles for them.
Okay.
And so my trees are being received very well and they are being respected because I learned the rules, I understand the rules, I know the rules, but then I know how to dance around them
Yeah.
and take it to the next step. And it's not for everybody, but
Right.
I don't care. It's for me, you know.
Well,
I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah, and so I mean, so like if you're going to like a competition, you're gonna like you're taking some to the competition, you're definitely gonna follow those guidelines a little
Absolutely.
bit. Because like you were saying earlier, we were looking at one of your trees, and you're like, oh, if this was like this, it'd be disqualified immediately.
Right.
I have seen you actually do a styling of one of my favorite plants that you have is the adenium,
Oh, yeah.
and that's probably if someone was getting into bonsai, that's probably one of the most maintenance-free bonsais,
Yeah.
I would say, because they kind of do the root work for you. It's really mostly topside. If you keep them shallow and do a lift, every once a year you're supposed to lift them up and
And expose more of the root.
expose more of that root.
So you can go two ways with these. You can either bury them, because they're like a tuber plant, right? So you bury them to about this size, and then the trunk only develops under the soil. So if I wanted this trunk to look even cooler, I could just bury it up to here with soil, wait about 3 to 4 years, and I would have a humongous trunk.
Looks like an octopus.
Exactly. Very, very cool. The reason why I haven't done it with this is because I'm growing this just for the flower color. This is a very rare hybrid. The flowers are like a purple.
I'm gonna need some cuttings maybe.
I got you. Definitely. Before you go, I'll give you a cutting of them.
I'm a collector. I'm up to about 20 of those now.
Really? I mean, they're one of my favorite plant species to work with.
Yes.
They make such great bonsai trees,
Yes.
easy to care for, like you said,
Well, I've
maintenance free.
I've seen you do some videos where the trunk is so thick.
Mhm.
It is so crazy, and this isn't something you water every single day.
It depends. So, in the growing season, if it's in this type of soil, very free draining, I usually water it once a day.
Really?
Not a full deep watering, but like a splash.
Splash.
And then every 3 to 4 days, I will give it a deep watering. Because check this out. You see all of this new
It looks
growth here?
beautiful.
It's very beautiful, thank you. You see all this new growth here? So this tree is still green in here. That means it still wants to continue to push more growth. In order for a plant to produce a lot of growth when it's actively growing like this, it needs a lot of water to keep the engine running. If I were to, water more irregularly, like not every single day give it a splash, it would kind of start to slow down again once it doesn't have enough water, and then you would have to restart the engine. And to do that is kind of like it's not really good for the tree because it's like it's kind of like that, right?
Right. Well, and I guess because it's in your soil as well, it's really, really fast draining.
Mm-hmm.
Mine are in regular soil,
Mm-hmm.
so I hit them maybe 2 or 3 times a week. But my soil is holding a lot more water
Absolutely.
than this. But so that makes a good point. If you're going to use this bonsai soil, you need to make sure that you're watering pretty often because it's not holding much water.
Exactly. And actually, trees prefer to dry out in between waterings.
Yes, they don't like wet feet.
No. And if you use black soil, it's extremely difficult to gauge if the water is drying out evenly, right? Black soil doesn't dry evenly. It dries very unevenly. And when you water, it also doesn't water, like percolate evenly either.
Right.
And with this soil, it dries more evenly. The air can come in through the top and aerate the roots. That's why when you look at somebody repotting a bonsai tree, you see all of these fine roots right around the trunk area.
Yeah.
And it's very tight and compact, like a doormat, like a carpet.
Right, right.
That's because of the air that can come in and aerate the roots.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Of course, but I also understand if you grow tomatoes, for instance, you might not want to have a huge pot full of bonsai soil, water it every day. What I'm talking about is specifically for bonsai growing.
Correct, yeah.
You are the plant expert.
I don't know about all that.
Well, yes, you are. I think that's what the younger generation now, like, let's say 40 and younger, really appreciates is that freestyle approach
Yep.
to bonsai, right?
It's a plug right there, shameless plug for Freestyle Bonsai available
That's
on
right.
Amazon.
We wrote a
He
book, my
loves he
wife and
loves
I.
that.
Oh,
See, he loves that.
you know what? The book is my pride and joy.
Yeah.
It was the hardest thing that I ever did in my entire life,
Hmm.
especially with my wife. Like, it was a test to our marriage to write a book together.
Yeah.
It's very
It
difficult.
helps that she's a writer.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so the
That's why she almost divorced me because she saw my writing and she was like, dude.
so that book was written during the pandemic. Y'all shut down the nurseries,
Correct.
and y'all had moved to Houston already. Did
We
y'all write
lived,
it here?
no, so we actually, right before the pandemic, we actually had moved to Atlanta
That's right.
because
Yeah.
she wanted to pursue her acting career. She wanted to pursue her passion for writing. And since she helped me out with the bonsai,
That's what marriage is. Yeah.
exactly, it's a
Exactly.
give and take.
Yep.
So she helped me out, so it was 100% all on me for the first 6 years.
And she was able
And
to do some of the bonsai supply stuff while she was going to like auditions and stuff like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then when we moved to Atlanta, I picked up a little bit more of her work. Not a lot more, don't be fooled, just a little bit. So that she can do auditions,
Yeah.
she can go and network. And Atlanta is huge in the acting scene.
Yes.
And so that all happened, and then she found the passion for writing, which she can now do from anywhere.
That's awesome.
And then the business in Texas picked up so much where we had to move to Houston to
Oversee.
oversee it better and be on site every day at the warehouse, and
Because
kind of fine tune the things.
the soil mix was already made here.
Yes, it
Yeah.
has always been made here
Made in Texas.
from day one.
Product of Texas.
Absolutely. I mean, Texas is such a business-friendly state,
Yep.
and we get our soil materials from like Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico. So all of the states that are surrounding,
Hmm.
well, not really surrounding, more like on the upper
Yeah, yeah.
northwest area, but you get what I'm
Right.
saying. So it was very convenient to bring the stuff here.
Yeah.
And also the weather here is perfect for what we do.
Hmm.
And we found a
Not
warehouse.
necessarily for the bonsai trees, but for the soil, yes.
It depends what type of bonsai
Yeah.
you have. Tropicals, absolutely. But for the soil manufacturing part, we found a warehouse here that just worked out. And then also we import some of the things that are not related to the soil. So the port of Houston, Texas is right here.
Right there.
So it's very convenient. And then we met, really cool Texan people. I'm a Texan too now.
You are a Texan. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I have a southern accent
I
sometimes.
mean, unless y'all move again, then I'm gonna be very upset. It was it was so funny because like gardening content creators or gardening people. There's quite a few of us, and then finding other garden content creators is kind of hard. And I guess you wouldn't technically be a gardening content creator because you already told me you hate outside.
I don't hate outside. Now keep in mind, I'm from Switzerland. I'm used to the cold, the sweater weather.
And that is not Texas.
That's not Texas, and nobody told me. So when we moved here in March, everybody I would go to the hairdresser and I would complain, or to the barber, and I would
The
complain.
hairdresser.
It's the barber. It's the barber, which is in reality the hairdresser. I go to a hairdresser. I'm fancy like that.
Hey, it's a wig. Don't even listen.
So it's a wig. Don't pull on it. So I will go there and they will be like, "How are you?" And I will be like, "Man, it's hot." And they will be like, "No, it's just warming up." And I said, "Warming up to what?" Now I know.
This
So
was your first summer in Houston, right?
oh, it's brutal.
This
And
might be the worst summer in Houston I've ever felt ever.
God,
It's
and
been miserable.
I can't take it. So our employees and like my wife's mom and dad, they also work in the warehouse. They're part of the business too. So it is a family business.
Absolutely.
And they are like, because they've been here since the beginning.
Right.
And they work out there in the sun, no hat, no sunscreen. It's 112.
They're also from Venezuela too, so it's probably not as
It's not that.
it's not that
that big of a transition.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Felix, how do you do it? And he's like, what are you talking about, man? This is nothing.
yeah.
And I can't work in the afternoon outside. Morning for like from 8 to 10, and then I have to be inside. Otherwise, I would melt. Literally melt.
It'd be Swiss Miss out there.
I would be Swiss cheese.
Melted Swiss cheese. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. So I reached out to you, and was like, man, I love your videos. Let's do something. We had a garden meetup, and I think I picked the hottest day of the year.
You sure did.
Dude, it was so
And I
hot.
didn't like you for that.
But him and his wife showed up with some bonsai trees, and I think that might have been the worst meetup turnout I've ever had. I think I had like 4 people show up to that meetup because it was so hot.
No, but I think the turnout was actually good because at the end a lot of people showed up.
Yeah, it was towards the later on,
Yeah.
but it gave us time to kind of go over and focus on, defoliating that tree.
It was a good time for us to get to know each other.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
remember we came out with the handshake?
I don't
That
remember.
was
I don't remember the handshake.
You don't remember
I
it?
killed a lot of brain cells early on in life.
Oh, okay.
I've been hitting the head. I've been hitting the head a lot.
Well, it's very inappropriate, so I'm not gonna. It's good that you forgot it.
We will recreate that right here. No, I'm just kidding.
It's very inappropriate.
But sometimes like a lot of these garden people, tree people, plant people, you meet them. Sometimes sometimes it's cool. Sometimes, but like when I met Jerome, I was like, oh, I've known this dude for like forever. I guess
Right.
that's
Likewise.
sometimes it's like, oh, I know this guy already. Like we've only met twice. It's the second time meeting.
That's true, but I think we're all very special people. Like if you put plants,
More ways than one.
yeah. But if you put, all your love into plants,
Yeah.
it's a work of love, right? It's a passion, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I call my bonsai obsession a lifestyle, and I think everybody who is the same as you, very special people, very special people.
I look at it like art, it is definitely as a lifestyle because, I mean, this is your full-time job. I have another full-time job, and then when I get off work, I'm creating more content.
But while you are at your work, the pace for,
Yes,
you
absolutely.
think about your plans.
Yes. Oh,
So
yeah.
it's definitely a lifestyle.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely a
It's a,
lifestyle.
it's a healthy obsession.
Yeah, because I work 40 hours a week, and then I go home, and I'm working right now. It's not work because I'm with Jerome
That's right.
and Mari. But, I mean, it's not work if you love what you do. And so even if you can't do it full-time, like where it pays the bills, do your full-time job, and then go enjoy it on your days off. Make that full-time job, pay for your lifestyle and your things that you
But
actually
then you
enjoy.
also need your lifestyle to do then your full-time
It's
job.
a yin and yang.
100%.
Back to
100%.
back to the Eastern
And
philosophy.
we didn't transition into one day from being employed to being self-employed.
Right.
It happened over time too, So
Yeah.
everything good happens over time and starts small and grows.
Absolutely.
And so,
There are some people who jump in head first and like it just takes off, but sometimes you just hit the concrete as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's definitely, eventually one day I'll be a full-time whatever doing this, but it's nice to see people like you, who, 10 years ago, would you imagined
never.
that you'd be doing this full-time? Like you get paid to go travel around, talk bonsai, do workshops, make people's dreams come true.
Make
People
my own dream
yeah,
come
and
true.
it's
Absolutely.
if you can make your dream come true, while also making other people's dreams come true. I mean, it's like that song, "You make my dreams come true."
Ooh.
Well, Hall and Oates.
Oh, I like that. So I get the guitar?
Oh no, we're not gonna do that. Not today. Not today.
Next time.
Yes. But yeah, man, I appreciate. I know you gotta go lunch here fairly quickly, but real quick, let people know like you have any workshops or anything coming up soon, and y'all post videos like weekly, pretty much.
Yes, so I don't have any workshops in person right now. I'm done for the year.
Y'all need to do like a virtual workshop or something like that, like where y'all set up like on your site, to where people you say, hey, go order this package. We'll send you a juniper. We'll send you the soil, the pot, and then at this time, this date, we're gonna all do it together.
So we used to do something like that. Absolutely. Now the soil business has taken off and is taking mostly all of our time.
Right.
So right now we do YouTube, which is the most consistent
In
thing
a lot
that
of
we
lives,
do.
y'all do quite
In
a
a
bit.
lot of lives, yes.
Y'all even do
And-
auctions, right? For
Yes.
for the trees you do.
So our YouTube videos are kind of structured this way. Like the first YouTube video that comes out every Wednesday at 9 a.m. It's Eastern time actually. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m. a new video comes out.
Okay.
So the first video of the month is a specific species. I take a specific species that we use for bonsai and I talk about everything there is to know about that species.
Y'all have some structure to this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we talk about like what time of the year do I repot, when do I trim, what are the do's and the don'ts, the placements, the water, the insect care, literally everything that
Yeah.
you can imagine. Now the following week, Wednesday, so the second week of the month, we do a specific technique that is can be specific to that species, or it's just a specific
Yeah.
technique that we teach on the same species.
Okay.
Now the third is going to be the live. Where we go live, it's in the evening. You can ask all of your questions. It's an auction.
I jump in the comments a lot usually. Yeah.
Yeah, we really like having you there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So we work on that specific species. I style it, and you guys ask all the questions that you want, inappropriate, and then he's very inappropriate. And then at the end of the live, it goes up on our website. We auction it off.
Okay.
And then the fourth and last week of the month, sometimes the fifth, we have an extra video. But usually the last week we do a story time.
Okay.
Where I speak about a tree that I have in that specific species,
Yeah.
the history, how I got it to this point, what are my future, strategies with this tree. So it's very structured and it's very cool. And,
That's awesome.
And people really like.
See, I didn't know there was like a guideline, like a not guideline, but like an outline, like of y'all's month. So that's kind of a. I like that.
We've never said it out loud until just now, and I don't know if I was supposed to say it out loud, but I think I'm okay. So
I will edit that out. No.
Yeah.
No,
You brought it out of
That
me.
makes sense. Maybe I need to do something similar to that. Because I have content diarrhea. That as soon as I get it, I'm like, I'm gonna edit and get it out right now.
We used to be like
Yeah.
that, but then we figured, we need to have
Hence
some
how
sort of
successful
structure.
they are.
Well, but the structure happened over time because
Yeah.
people told us what they want to see.
Right.
It's just like with your business, you don't know the identity of your business for a long time.
Right.
You don't know the identity of your whatever you do
Yeah.
until it comes out. And so people brought this out of us. Hey, I want to see species specifically. Nobody does that. And we were like, uh-huh. And then people were like, oh, we want to learn more techniques. Uh-huh. Oh, we want to hear more stories. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
that's kind of how that was developed. And then my wife and I put that together. How can we
Yeah.
make that a
Well, and when you're a business and you're doing this full time, you kind of have to have a plan. You have to have like a plan of how do we do this? Like, how do we
right?
get this going?
Absolutely, and it's all about listening to your customers, listening to your followers, and they kind of shape your business for you
Yeah.
and create the identity. You have to listen. You cannot be stubborn and be like, "Oh, it's my way. I know it better," because you really don't.
And that's gardening and bonsai in general. Like there's no right way to do a lot of. There are some wrong ways to do it, but I mean,
what's really funny in gardening too is that whatever works for you might not work for me.
right.
Because my backyard is structured differently, my soil is differently in the ground, the wind blows differently, and
Yeah.
all of these things play such a huge aspect of how well your plants grow. We have to separate the dog and the
Because
bonsai
they are just
area.
to piss on them.
That's not even the thing, is that so when you use organic fertilizers,
Yes.
and like for the conifers, I use organics, the dogs love to eat it.
They are mine too.
And it took me a long time to figure out why does my organic fertilizer keep disappearing?
Do they get sick from it though?
No,
Oh yeah.
no, it's nothing.
It's just that they're eating the fertilizer.
It just keeps
Your,
disappearing.
your fertilizer, which is organic and it's made by my buddies at Nelson Plant Food.
That's correct.
Yeah, so your soil, your fertilizer, your wire, everything is available at bonsaisupply.com.
TheBonsaiSupply.com.
Is it thebonsaiisupply.com?
TheBonsaiSupply.com.
I'll put links to everything down below, and then make sure to follow him on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everything, YouTube.
Everything, we're everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're like the wind. They're everywhere. I hope y'all enjoyed this video with Jerome, and his wife has been in the background. She goes, it's too early for me to be on video, but she helped out a lot. So thank you so much to Mari, right?
Mari, yeah.
I always want to say Marie, but I know it's Mari.
But that's okay too. So
Yeah.
her full name is Mariannjely, which is a little difficult for most people to say.
If I had to say Mariannjely, it rolls off the
No,
tongue.
but that's pretty good though.
Yeah,
You can call her Mary.
Yeah.
I call her my love. You can call her that too. That's fine. I'll share with you.
How often how often do they call you Jeremy?
Jerome, you mean?
Yeah,
Or people in general?
Yes, because I get Dustin all the time.
So what's actually really funny is that most people get it wrong, especially when they read it and then they see me.
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, hey, Jeremy."
Really?
I'm like, "No, it's Jerome."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Gerard?" "No, it's Jerome."
Is that-
Jamie?
Is
"No,
that
it's Jerome."
Is that a common name in Switzerland?
Actually, it is. So Jerome is actually a French name, Jerome.
Oh.
And since Switzerland is, part French, all the people look like me with the name Jerome because it's a French
You're
name.
French?
But then I
Ew.
think the way that it came to the United States and became predominantly a black name was because of Haiti, because Haiti
It's a French
is
colony.
Creole,
Yeah.
and there it is a very common name as well, Jerome.
That makes
I
sense.
think that's how it came.
Oh yeah, because I'll be honest with you, I have never met a white Jerome.
I have
I
never
almost
met
called you Jeremy.
I have never met anybody else who was white in
Name.
Switzerland. Like everybody in
Oh,
Switzerland.
there's no white people in Switzerland?
No,
Just-
let me rephrase this. Let me rephrase. So all of my friends in Switzerland with the name Jerome are all white.
Yeah.
When I came to the United States and I made a reservation over the phone and I would show up at the restaurant, I would get the double stare,
Yeah.
especially by black people. They're like, what?
No, no.
And then
that's
they
not
would be
right.
like, Jerome is in the house, and I was like, what are they talking about? And so
That's funny.
that's
man.
when I found out that Jerome was actually a character,
Yeah,
right?
it's a character from Martin.
Martin.
Jerome.
Yeah. Jerome is in the house. Watch your mouth.
My wife was a big fan of Martin growing up, and she's like, you're going to see Jerome today.
I get that all the time. Now, it took me about 15 years to figure out why these people make these noises
Oh my
towards me.
God.
Because nobody would explain me. They would just be like, Jerome. And I was like, why does everybody go like this when they see me? And it's in the entire United States.
Yeah.
Jerome. And I
Yep.
was like,
It's
what
just-
is wrong with these people? Everybody does that.
You got to change it to Jerry or something. Or
Jerry. Well, lately I've been going with Jay.
Jay?
It's just easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to change. See, I'm Destin. My dad's name's Destin. I'm a junior.
Oh.
And I was conceived in Destin, where my dad was conceived in Destin, Florida. That's
Oh,
where he
that's
got the
still
name.
funny.
But I've met a couple other Destins, but it's usually Dustin, Justin. I've heard Dastin, Rustin, Weston. It's like, it's hard.
I feel like America is famous for that, though. Changing the names with just a few letters.
Yeah, there's some names that are definitely more unique than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
In Switzerland, we have a book of names, and you have to stick to those books.
Yeah.
You cannot just make up names.
Yeah, or they'll strap you to one of those Saint Bernards and send you up the mountain.
It's a little more brutal than that, but yeah.
Well, Jerome, I appreciate you hanging out with me today, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to your wife thank you for having me at your house. We'll have to do this again sometime. We'll get you on the Grow Bros podcast as well.
Let's do it.
And yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Of
man.
course, anytime, man.
And
Appreciate
make sure to follow Jerome. I will put all the links down below, and I'll see y'all later.
See you next time.